Thank you for sharing your Saturday night with us, the weekend before Thanksgiving. It means so much to all of us to have you here. My name is Lora Painter, evening anchor at ABC10, and also a proud board member of your Sacramento Philharmonic and Opera. And joining me on stage are our special guests tonight. We have Ari Pelto, our principal conductor and artistic advisor. Round of applause for Ari, please. Thank you for being here. Welcome again to Sacramento. And David Lefkowich. He is the director of our opera tonight, Bluebeard. Round of applause for David. Thank you for traveling all the way out here. Great to have you. We're really in for a treat. I want to start with you, David, really quick. Last time we spoke, it was for our opera last season, Cavalleria Rusticana. I love to say it. He taught me how to say that perfectly. I don't speak Italian, but I think I do now. It was wonderful speaking with you for that opera, and Bluebeard is quite different. So help us set the stage here. Tell us about the story and your thoughts on it.
Absolutely. Well, it's wonderful being back. I had such a wonderful time with Cavalleria Rusticana. It was a great performance, a wonderful audience. So it was a real pleasure when they called and said, "How about Bluebeard's Castle?" And I was like, uh-oh, this is a tough one. It's in Hungarian, and often operas are not performed in Hungarian, at least the ones that we often do. They're in French or German, Italian, and English. And this is also an opera. A lot of times operas end in death, but this one sort of does, I don't want to give anything away, but this one follows a similar sort of track. So it was actually...
What do you mean by that?
We come to realize that the people we've been watching aren't just, that what's happening on stage hasn't just happened now, but has actually happened many times before. So it's actually a very dark story. It's sort of a perfect Halloween into the season sort of tale of death and murder, but in a beautiful and operatic sort of way. And so how does one approach sort of a piece like that? You know, we sort of, in this space, we have sort of an anything is possible configuration. But we wanted to figure out a way to bring the drama and the horror and the fun and the intrigue as close to the audience as possible. So actually, as you can see right here, we've actually reversed what is sort of traditionally done in the opera, where the orchestra's in the pit, and now they are actually right here on stage. They are sort of the highlight, the sort of main scenic element of the show, omnipresent as this tale unfolds. And our performers utilize the space downstage, and so they'll just be so much more close. And for a piece that's so dramatic and also so intimate, it's just a really wonderful opportunity for the audience to get to let it just wash over them and enjoy a story that, at least, I don't know, has anyone seen this before? Is anyone very familiar with Bluebeard? A few people?
We actually have a few hands.
That's great. You're more familiar than I was when I first started looking at this piece, and it's been quite a year exploring it, learning it, and figuring out a way to present it to everybody. That's exciting.
Thank you for that. And Ari, let's talk about the music, let's talk about the score. I heard a story that you had gone to Portland to learn Hungarian, learn about Hungarian, and see a score that actually had Bela Bartok's handwriting on it. He is the composer, he's Hungarian. So tell us about that story.
Okay, well, the story is that, first of all, I've had this piece on my mind for many years, and it's one of these pieces that somebody like me fears will never have a chance to perform, because it's done very rarely, partly because it's in Hungarian, partly because it's quite difficult to produce. It takes lots of resources. It requires a very large orchestra, which generally doesn't fit into a pit. And so you have to create special circumstances for it to happen. So I thought, I don't know that I'll ever get a chance to do it, but it's this piece that was sitting in the back of my head for all these years. So the first thing, once we decided we were going to do it, is I had to learn Hungarian, at least as well as I possibly could. And so my wife and son could attest to the fact that a lot of this summer was spent working on Hungarian hours a day. Hungarian is a tricky, complicated language. On top of that, there are several other factors. One is that the music itself is quite complicated. Bartók was a very sophisticated and complex musical mind, and this is the only opera he wrote, but he put an enormous amount of attention and energy into it, and he was very proud of this piece, which was actually, he had submitted for a competition. He didn't win the competition, strangely, in my view, and so it took him some time to have it produced. But he poured his love and attention into this piece, and the music is practically all of Bartók is quite complicated. This one is very complicated, plus the Hungarian. Very difficult for the singers. You'll see we have these two amazing singers singing Judith and Bluebeard tonight, and for them, of course, it's an enormous challenge to learn the Hungarian, sing it, as you'll see tonight, from memory, with full staging, which we had all of 6 days to accomplish. And so all in all, it was an enormous challenge. So yes, it's true that I did go to Portland last week. This was not to try and learn Hungarian in one night.
A crash course in one of the world's hardest languages.
Yeah.
It's related to Finnish, right?
It is related to Finnish, and I do know Finnish, and it helped a little, but not very much.
No excuses, Ari, no excuses.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm out of excuses on this one. The crash course for me was the 3 months of crash course, and even still, there's a long way to go, let's say. But it's true, my mentor, as a conducting student many years ago at Indiana University, was a wonderful conductor by the name of Imre Palló, who was from Budapest, and whose father was the original prologue speaker for this show.
Oh, wow.
With Bartók.
That's amazing.
Yeah, in 1917, I think, when it was finally originally produced. And so my teacher's father, in a sense, was the direct link to Bartók, along with my teacher Imre's mentor, the famous Hungarian conductor Ferenc Fricsay. And Fricsay conducted this in a production along with Bartók in 1937. And so when I made plans to go see my old teacher, he said, I'll show you the score. So this past weekend, we had already begun rehearsing. Last Saturday we rehearsed, and then we rehearsed on Sunday, and then I got on a plane and I spent Sunday evening with my old mentor, and with the score. And the score, sure enough, has commentary from Bartók, all scribbled all over the first couple pages. And there are a couple interesting features to this. David alluded to what is this story, and you'll see how the story unfolds. But it's a story that, all great works of art, I think, have some complexity to them, right? And this is a piece that has an unusual amount of complexity in that it's symbolic, it's allegorical, the story is there in front of your eyes with text that's real text, and yet there's a very complicated symbolic set of meanings that underpins the whole thing. Some of that was written in this score by Bartók. Some of his ideas for the meaning, what he felt was the meaning of this piece. And I'll just give you a couple things to think about, because I think one thing that's really important about an evening like this is that you will all decide what you think this piece is about. that's kind of in the nature of symbolism and allegory. We all sort of understand it in our own way. But some of the key points for Bartok, I think, had to do with male and female relationships, complexities of love and inability to show love properly, what happens when you're not able to show love, the loss that occurs between men and women or inside somebody when they have not figured out how to love properly, and honor their partners. And this is played out in a very real way on this stage, along with blood and operatic drama.
Yes, very, very exciting. You mentioned the symbolism. There was a lot going on in Europe when this piece was written and composed and performed. World War I, Freud was becoming really popular. This was a golden age of arts, arguably, I would say, right? And even massive ships like the Titanic were, becoming, we were conquering nature, right? Man over nature. And I think you touched upon a really good theme of the juxtaposition, right? There's a lot of male versus female dynamic, oppression versus freedom, light versus dark, yin and yang. It's a very complex but very open to your own interpretation sort of opera. And I wanted to know your perspective in your direction of this. You have set this in, am I correct when you said a Victorian era?
More Victorian era, and you'll see that sort of done with the clothes. Bluebeard, when he first comes out, has this hat, cape, full three-piece suit. But one of the ways that Judith gets to know Bluebeard is through these 7 rooms that are locked. She's not allowed to access them. In fact, it's very clear, they sing about it a lot. You can't go in, but she says, unlock these doors. And for me, these are sort of 7 layers of his personality that we are getting to know. And you get to know both the good and the bad, as any human relationship is one to do. And so the way we express this, because with this we have a very somewhat simple setting, but there's a platform over on the stage left. It's a round platform, and we have these wonderful supernumerary actors who represent, they wear a veil that represents the room that Bluebeard is showing Judith over the course of the opera. And what I love about that is that, again, just like Ari was saying, it's sort of open to your interpretation. The rooms all have names, like the Armory or the Treasury or the Lake of Tears. But what that means and how that represents Bluebeard is really more in your court. You get to make that decision and decide for yourself, who is this person that she has found herself with and that she's getting to know. So just like the story, we try to tell it as sort of honestly and the most real way possible. But because there's also all of these, there's metaphor and symbolism, we wanted to add that element into the storytelling as well.
We can't wait to see it come to life on this stage tonight. Thank you for that explanation. That's very exciting. And I wonder, Ari, you've done a few operas with us now, and they've all had their own flavor, their own different cast and story. When we have an opera that has only 2 singers, they have to carry this show. So I wonder what it's like for you to conduct a piece with singers versus a purely symphonic piece versus maybe a kind of concerto or anything like that. What is your favorite part about conducting an opera?
That was a lot of different questions all at once.
It is. I'm trying to trip you up. You're just too good at answering all of my questions. I got to throw multiple ones at the same time.
No, that was so much. Well, there are a couple things about it. First, yes, this is as you see, there are only 2 singers, which means that there's an enormous amount of dramatic and musical weight on their shoulders. They have to carry the evening without, and especially in this kind of circumstance, without lots of bells and whistles or fantastical scenery all over to kind of not to hide behind, but to help them as props. So they're very much on their own and very exposed. Another feature of it, however, is that the orchestra plays an enormous role in this piece, as it does with many, many operas, of course, some more clearly than others. But in this one, particularly, I think you'll experience this right away and throughout the evening. The orchestra illustrates very clearly the psychological moment. And in that way, it's, as I said, it's a very complicated musical piece. It's because it's a very complicated dramatic and psychological piece as well. And Bartók wrote this in very wonderfully evocative ways. But the orchestra, every bar for the orchestra is a moment of illustrating a psychological state of mind or a dramatic impetus. And so for me, the logistical circumstances are a little bit, as David said, a little bit unusual. In this case, I don't get to interact with the singers in the way I normally do if I was standing right there and the orchestra was here and I'm interacting with the singers in front of me. That's the most common way we usually conduct. But here, in this case, I'm behind them, and so I'm kind of toggling back and forth between giving information for the singers who are behind me and for the orchestra that's there in front. So that's how I think of it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that perspective. We're always trying to find a new challenge for you and test you to your limits, right? We're getting really familiar with Ari, so we're trying to keep you on your toes, young man, all right? I can't have you fly all the way out here and not put you to work.
No, I've come to realize.
Well, I do want to pick your brain a little bit more lastly. We have just a couple more minutes before we have to let you guys get ready for this big opera we have going on. But just quickly, in a few seconds here, what are some of the advantages for the audience having a more minimally staged opera? Bring us into that world of, it's different than some of the stuff that we've seen, especially like Cavalleria or Don Giovanni.
Well, I think it really allows the audience then to focus on the music. And for me, that was such an important part of this process, was what is the most important pieces we need for the story to make sense, but how can we have the music really be the backdrop, the highlight, and then one of the principal storytellers of the piece. I have done another production many years ago with the orchestra on stage in this configuration, and there's this sort of, they're always present, they're always there, and that's how I feel that this music never disappears, it never goes away, it doesn't stop for applause at any moment, it just continues. And so we wanted that to be a highlight of the production and let that become a feature of the show. I think also as the audience, as I said earlier, I think having the actors so close allows them you get to see the mechanics of singing, which is sometimes very beautiful and sometimes horrifying, horrifyingly wonderful.
To get spat on is quite exciting.
Absolutely. But you also get to see these, often with opera, you're so far removed. You're looking at your opera glasses, you can't see the expressions on their face. And with this sort of a piece that's so psychological and there's so many nuanced moments, it's so wonderful to be able to sort of get to experience that up close, right there with them, and see each facial tick just shift. And you have two wonderful singing actors who are up for that challenge, so it's pretty neat. So I think it's actually a gift to have this opportunity to do it like this.
Well, thank you so much. Having both of you here is a huge gift, so we are so thankful and grateful to have you here. Big round of applause for our special guests, our conductor, Ari Pelto, and director, David Lefkowich. Everyone enjoyed the show. My name is Lora.